Well, let's get some response now from the former DA leader, Tony Leon, and he joins us from Cape Town. Mr. Leon, afternoon to you. So what went wrong here, do you think?
Well, I suppose, we'd say in marital terms it was a marriage in haste and there's repentance at leisure, and it all unfolded in less than a week. And I guess the problem was that there wasn't an agreement in advance in an explicit way, not on she said or she didn't say, but something that had been signed and sealed before the announcement on the sticking point. And any agreement or any political union or rearrangement always has a fundamental clause that needs to be addressed, or a standout issue. And the issue here clearly was, would Dr. Ramphele become a DA member in order to become a DA candidate? That was the legal precondition, but it was not obtained in advance, or it wasn't explicitly obtained in advance. And the thing gave enough, both parties, or particularly Dr. Ramphele, enough wiggle room to get out of an agreement that she'd apparently consented to 5 days before she reneged on it.
How do you think that this is going to play out internally within the DA in terms of some kind of comeuppance, if there will be, for Ms. Zille?
Well, every leader has to bear the consequences of their decisions, and in this case, Helen Zille said that she's responsible, and that's the appropriate response. What the party does with that, no doubt after the election, time will tell. But, I know myself, having led the union of the Democratic Party and the new National Party into what is the DA today, that there are risks in all these arrangements if you're expanding your political organization. But what you need, and that union also had its problems, but they only manifest themselves 18 months after we signed the agreement. Mm-hmm. But in the formation of the DA, we knew that the issue was that the DP had to have management control of the party, and without that there would have been no agreement. And Joe Slovo said hindsight is the most perfect and irritating of all sciences, in this case too. But I mean, what should have been obtained was that agreement in writing before it was announced in public. Well, that didn't happen, but I mean, there are going to be consequences undoubtedly in the DA. There are going to be greater consequences, I suspect, for Dr. Ramphele, who can talk about millions of South Africans, but I will tell you, as someone who's been involved in a few political contests, that she's not going to get millions of votes. She's going to be doing well to get 100,000 votes after this debacle.
Mr. Leon, any of you, why does the DA seem to believe that by placing a senior black person at the helm, it will magically grow its support base within the black majority?
Well, you see, I'm not sure that was the motivation, and I don't know. I'm obviously not in the party councils these days, happily. But I think that what the thinking was that here is a way that we can enthuse not actually the government or the governing party supporters, but the opposition side. Because if, there's a contest on the opposition side and people lose sight of the fact that it's not just the DA and the Mamfelas of this world, there's also a much, in some ways, more striking character, Julius Malema, who's absorbing a lot of the oxygen in the media sphere and on the opposition side. And I think the thinking was, well, look, if we can bring together Mamphele, Mampela and Zille and put them onto one list, it'll enthuse the opposition supporter and mobilize them to go and vote and get enthusiastic, and that'll mobilize the opposition side and maybe depress the ruling party side. Well, it didn't work, but I think the feeling was that's the one way. And in fact, Helen Zille said last week, by bringing Ramphele into the party, we are actually taking away the race card. Well, now we're back to where we were. So to the extent that was true, it remains true. But, I think you've got to have political self-confidence. I mean, politics, South African politics, is a tough business, and you've got to put your best foot forward. You've got to go with the leaders you've got. The DA says they've grown their own timber. Well, you've got to look in your own forest and bring them to the front.
Indeed. Thanks so much for your time. That was the former DA leader.
Know more about your world.
eNCA.com